5 common ASO questions. What if your app is great, but no one can find it? Every day, millions of users search for apps in the App Store and Google Play. But with millions of apps competing for attention, visibility doesn't happen by accident. And that's exactly where ASO comes in. Hi, I'm Anna, an ASO specialist, and in this video we're going to answer the 5 most common questions about App Store optimization. If you're a developer, marketer, or just starting with ASO, you'll probably ask at least one of these questions. Today we'll break everything down step by step with real examples and practical tools you can use right away. So, let's start with the first and probably the most important question. Question 1. How to find the right keywords for your app? Before we talk about tools, let's quickly cover the basics. Keywords are the words and phrases that users type into the App Store and Google Play when they are looking for an app. For example, background remover app, video editor without watermark, fitness for weight loss, budget tracker. If you choose the wrong keywords, even the best app might stay invisible in the store. That's why keyword research is the foundation of ASO. To find the right keywords, I usually combine ASO tools and simple research techniques. For example, one of the platforms I often use is ASOMobile. It allows me to analyze keywords, competitors, and app visibility in one place. Inside the platform, I usually start with a few simple steps. First, don't just make up keywords. You need to understand exactly what people are typing into the search bar. Very often, developers describe their product in one way, while users search using completely different words. For example, a photo editing app. Here, users may be looking for solutions to very specific tasks, such as remove background, blur photo background, AI photo enhancer, restore old photos, remove an object from a photo. So, the main goal isn't the app description, but finding real search queries. One way to check this is to review keyword indexing, which shows the queries for which the app already appears in the store right now. This helps you understand how the algorithm currently sees the product. Also, I always evaluate keyword relevance. A good keyword should match 3 things: the app's functionality, the content on the app page, the user's expectations. For example, if an app is an AI photo enhancer but ranks for photo editor, users may expect a full editing suite. If they open the page and see a different type of product, conversion to install will likely be lower. That's why it's important to choose keywords that accurately describe what the app actually does. Another important step is balancing traffic and competition. When selecting keywords, I usually look at 2 factors: how popular the query is and how difficult it will be to rank. For example, photo editor has extremely high traffic but also extremely high competition. But a query like remove background from photo may have lower traffic, yet a much higher chance to getting visibility. In practice, mid-volume keywords often provide the best balance between reach and ranking potential. Competitors are one of the best sources of keyword ideas. If another app already ranks for a query, it usually means users are actually searching for it. The keyword works in that category. For example, in photo apps, you'll often see recurring keywords like remove background, AI photo enhancer, photo radish. This shows how users are already used to searching for this type of functionality. In ASO, keywords are often divided into 3 groups. High-volume keywords, very popular but highly competitive. For example, photo editor, video editor, workout. Mid-volume keywords, a good balance between traffic and competition. For example, photo background remover, home workout app, video editor for reels. And long-tail keywords, more specific queries with lower traffic but much lower competition. For example, remove background from photo free, workout for women at home, video editor without a watermark. In practice, many apps get the best results by ranking for a large number of mid-volume and long-tail keywords, not just one extremely popular term. For new apps, especially long-tail keywords are often the easiest way to gain initial visibility. And finally, it's important to remember that most apps don't get traffic from just one keyword. Installs usually come from dozens or even hundreds of related queries. For example, remove background, background remover, remove photo background, erase background, cut background from photo. These queries are very similar, but each of them can bring its own traffic. That's why a strong ASO strategy focuses on covering as many relevant variations as possible. In this video, I'm using some ASO tools just to demonstrate the process itself, but the same logic applies to most ASO platforms. In fact, there is a separate video on my channel where I go into much more detail about this and other tools. Question 2. How should you choose and place keywords in your app listing? Once you have your keywords, the next step is using them in your app's metadata. So first, let's quickly understand what metadata actually is. Metadata is the information that appears on your App Store page, things like your app title, subtitle, short description, and full description. But metadata is not only for users, it's also what the App Store and Google Play algorithms analyze to understand what your app is about and when to show it in search results. But there is one important thing to understand first. Keyword strategy changes depending on the stage of your app. For a new app, it's usually better to start with more specific long-tail keywords. They often have lower competition, which makes it easier to get your first ranking and start receiving organic traffic. As the app grows and being ranking for some keywords, you can gradually add more popular medium volume queries, and large, well-established apps can compete for high-volume keywords. So, your keyword strategy should evolve as the app grows. To organize keywords and build metadata, I usually use ASO Creator. Here I can see my keyword list and the main metadata fields like the app title, subtitle or short description, full description, and the keyword field for the App Store. But the most important thing here is not just placing keywords randomly, it's building a clear keyword focus. One important principle in ASO is focus. You shouldn't try to rank for every possible keyword at once. Instead, it's better to focus on one main use case or core feature of the app. For example, if the main feature of your app is background remover, it makes much more sense to focus on keywords like remove background, background remover, remove background from photo, AI background remover, and others. Instead of typing to rank for very broad keywords like photo editor or photo filter at the same time. This helps the store algorithms better understand what problem your app solves. Another important factor is user intent. The closer a keyword matches the problem a user wants to solve, the higher the chance they will install the app. For example, someone searching remove background from photo already has a very clear goal. So, if your app page matches that need, the conversion rate is usually much higher. Small practical tips from my workflow. When I work with keywords, I usually start by grouping the most important ones. For example, the keywords I consider the most important at once I try to include in the app title, because the title is one of the strongest ranking factor. For the App Store, I also sometimes experiment with different keywords across localization. For example, in the US App Store, multiple languages can be indexed, so I may place the most important keywords in the main metadata and test additional keywords in other localizations. This is a much deeper topic, so if you want to understand how it works in practice, I have a separate video on my channel where I explain localization and keyword indexing in detail. Another useful strategy is to check exciting keyword indexing. If your app is already indexed for some keywords, it's often easier to improve their ranking than to start optimizing for completely new ones. You can usually track this inside ASO tools through keyword ranking and indexing reports. So the key idea here is simple. Successful ASO is not about adding as many keywords as possible. It's about choosing the right keywords, focusing on one clear use case, and placing these keywords in the most important metadata fields. Before we move on, remember one simple rule. Good metadata should always be written for two audiences: the algorithm and a real user. So here's the third very common ASO question. Do screenshots really affect ASO? The short answer is yes, but not directly. Screenshots are part of what we call conversion optimization. This means they don't directly influence your search ranking like keywords do. But they strongly affect wherever users install your app after seeing in the search result. Think about it in this way. When users search for an app, they usually look at just a few things first: the app icon, the title, rating, and the first screenshots. And very often, screenshots are what convinces the user to install the app. Good screenshots quickly show what the app does, what problem it solves, and why it's better than alternatives. Screenshots should match the key keyword. For example, keyword remove background, and we see the first screenshot remove background in one tab. It's called keyword message alignment. In other words, screenshots should communicate value in just a few seconds. They should communicate results and benefits. For example, instead of writing custom tracking system, it's much more effective to say track your progress easily. Instead of showing a complicated UI, focus on the outcome the users will get. The first one or two screenshots are usually the most important because they are visible directly in search results. To understand what works well in screenshots, I usually analyze competitor listing. One of the easiest ways to do this is using visual comparison, where I can quickly see how multiple apps in the same category design their screenshots side by side. This helps reveal very clear patterns in how apps communicate their value. For example, when we look at top apps in the photo and video category, a few patterns appear almost immediately. Most screenshots focus on the final result rather than editing process. You'll often see things like before and after photos, enhanced images, clean backgrounds, high contrast visuals. And the captions are usually very simple and result-oriented. For example, remove background in one tab, professional filters, AI photo enhancement. If we look at games category, the logic is completely different. When I analyze games, the screenshots usually focus on gameplay, variety, creativity and freedom, social interaction, fun experiences. Here the screenshots are not explaining features, they are trying to show the experience. Because game users don't want long explanations, they want to immediately understand what can I do in this game. In many cases, the interface itself is not the main focus. What really matters is the outcome, what the user will get after using the app. This tells us something important. When users browse up in a category, they are usually not looking for detailed features yet. They are looking for a visual promise of the result. Another interesting thing appears when we analyze screenshots for specific search queries. For example, if the keyword is AI photo editor, screenshots often highlight AI labels, face or image improvements, dramatic before and after comparison. But for keywords like background remover, the visuals usually focus on object isolation, clear cutouts, transparent backgrounds. And for more creative searches like photo filters or Instagram presets, screenshots stand to emphasis: aesthetic, mood, lifestyle imagery, trendy colors and style. So, even when the core product is the same, the visual message can change depending on what the user is searching for. I actually talk more about these analysis methods and tools in other videos on the channel, where I go deeper into how to study competitors and categories. So far, we talked about keywords, metadata, and screenshots, the basics element of your app description. But here's another important question about ASO. How important is localization for ASO? The short answer: extremely important. After all, users in different countries search for information differently and respond differently to visual elements and messages. Localization is often misunderstood as simple translation, but in reality, it's much more than that. Localization means adapting your app page to the cultural, linguistic, and visual expectations of each market. That usually includes keywords, how users actually search in that country, app name and description, visuals like screenshots and promo banners, sometimes even UI elements, colors, or symbols. But one of the most important parts of localization is keyword behavior. Users in different countries often search for the same type of content using completely different keywords. To understand these differences, I often use tools like Worldwide Check, which show how search traffic for specific keyword changes across countries. For instance, in the US, people search for coloring book. But in the UK and some other regions, users search for coloring book. Even though the meaning is identical, the spelling difference can create completely separate search queries in the store. This helps identify where certain keywords are popular and where they are not. And by adapting keywords to each market, you can often unlock additional organic traffic from different regions. To analyze how apps localize their listing in practice, I also like to look at competitor page using tools like Geo Checker. This tool shows how app pages appear in different countries, including titles, subtitles, description, and screenshots. By comparing listing across markets, I look at how competitors adapt both their keywords and their visuals. Let's take shopping app as an example. In the US version, screenshots often highlight discounts, fast delivery, and promotional messaging such as up to 50% off today or free shipping. But in the Japanese market, the same app might emphasize product aesthetic, seasonal collections, and visual-rich catalog-style layouts, because users often pay more attention to presentation and product storytelling. And in some European markets, screenshots may focus more on quality, sustainability, or trusted brands. These patterns are deeply connected to culture context. By analyzing how competitors localize both text and visuals, you can build much stronger hypotheses about what works in each market. This is how ASO becomes a real experimentation system, not just a series of random updates. And finally, the last question: how do you know if your ASO is actually working? In reality, there are many metrics you can track, but in practice, ASO performance usually comes down to two key signals: visibility and conversion. So, visibility in search. First, you need to understand wherever your app is becoming more visible in the store. For example, are you ranking higher for your target keywords? Is your app appearing in search results more often? Are impressions increasing? If your keyword rankings start improving after ASO updates, it usually means the store algorithms is beginning to associate your app with those search queries. In practice, I usually evaluate this using an ASO dashboard, where I can track visibility, keyword performance, and downloads over time. But instead of analyzing everything, I focus on a few key indicators. First, I look at keyword indexing. I check how many keywords the app is currently indexed for. In other words, how many search queries the store associates with the app. For example, if after updating metadata, the number of indexed keywords increases, it means the algorithm has started connecting the app with new search terms. If that number stays the same, it may indicate that update didn't introduce strong enough keywords. Also, I evaluate keyword ranking and distribution. It's not enough just to be indexed. Rankings matter much more. So I check where my keywords are positioned. Are more keywords moving into top 5? Are some reaching the top 5? Are important keywords improving or dropping? For example, if a keyword moves from position 45 to position 12, it's already a strong positive signal. Even it's not, it's the top result yet. Also, I look at keyword distribution chart. That shows me where my keywords rank. I always focus on the green zone, the top 5 position. That's where most installs happen. It's very important to monitor organic traffic, the number of installs coming from search. After all, visibility alone is unless if it doesn't lead to install. Here I check wherever the number of users coming from search is increasing. For example, if traffic for keyword is increasing, great, ASO is working. If not, it may mean that keywords are irrelevant or the store page isn't driving conversions. Also, I review how specific keywords changed after the update using overview reports. This allows me to quickly see which keywords started ranking, which one improved significantly, wherever new keywords become indexed. For example, if I added several new keywords to the title or description, I expect to see those exact terms appear in indexing and begin climbing in ranking. If they don't appear at all, it usually means the store hasn't recognized them as relevant yet. This step is important because it confirms wherever your metadata changes actually affect search visibility. But visibility alone is not enough. The second important signal is conversion rate. How many users install your app after visiting the app page? This metric shows how well your icons, screenshots, rating, and messaging communicate the value of your app. If your conversion rate improves after updating your screenshots, description, or visuals, it's a strong sign that your product page optimization is working. However, conversion optimization is not a one-time task. User preferences, competitors, and market trends change constantly, so it's important to keep testing new ideas. That's why A/B testing is essential. It allows you to compare different versions of icons, screenshots, or messaging and choose the one that performs better. And by the way, I have a dedicated video where I explain A/B testing in ASO in detail. Another important signal when evaluating ASO performance is user feedback. The goal of ASO is not only to increase visibility in search, but also to improve conversion, the percentage of users who install the app after visiting the store page. And conversion depends not only on visual elements like icons or screenshots, but also on trust signals such as ratings and reviews. When users open an app page, many of them first look at the rating and the featured reviews before deciding wherever to install the app. That's why monitoring ratings and reviews is an essential part of ASO analysis. When evaluating the results of your optimization, it's important to track how the overall rating changes over time, wherever your team responds to all reviews and addresses user feedback, wherever user feedback reflects the value and features highlighted on your store page. It's also important to monitor which reviews are featured most prominently on the page. These reviews shape the first impression for new user and can strongly influence conversion. These were 5 of the most common ASO questions people ask. If you want to learn more about ASO strategies, tools, and real examples, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I regularly share practical tutorials and insights about App Store optimization and mobile growth.